But we are looking at the big divide. I'm not talking red states, blue states. I'm not talking AEW, WWE. We're talking about the next, the alternative to the dominant industry player. We're talking about Bluesky, who have had quite the week, Brandon. They have added several million users this week, and they are hot on the heels of X, formerly known as Twitter, Post Wrestling and Wrestlenomics, making the jump. Huge site fee that both of our brands respectively received from Bluesky to pitch our flag into the surface and move on over. Do you look at Bluesky as something that is going to be a relevant topic that we're talking about 6 months from now, or is this going to go the way of so many attempts at going after Twitter to create an alternative social media discussion platform?
I don't know. I think it will wear off over time, but we'll see. I think.
Well, what's your experience been like in the 24, 48 hours that you've been on Blue
I
Sky?
have been actually using Bluesky. I don't think I had an account. I know people had to give me invites a long time ago, but I had not gotten on there. Luckily, the whole handle was for both Wrestlenomics and Brandon Thurston were both available. So I'm on there. I'm on Threads. I spent a lot of time today and yesterday setting up APIs so that we will now be sharing. This is not started yet, but I think they tested okay this morning. We will now be sharing all of our website links on the Wrestlenomics handles for both Bluesky and Threads, as well as, of course, as always, Twitter, X. I think, I don't know. I think as time goes, I worry that we're going to end up in an even more bifurcated or fragmented media ecosystem where not only are we polarized by what media content we consume, but even the media itself, the platform itself will just be completely siloed, which is probably not a good thing for society.
I certainly see that. Like, that is kind of
that's the trajectory that we're on here.
It is the trajectory we're on, and it is the calling card of what a Bluesky or a Threads are. It's like the biggest selling feature is we're not Twitter. We're not this place. And I think you have Truth Social, you have Bluesky, and then you kind of have this X in the middle that I don't see people necessarily eliminating their X accounts, because thus far, 2 days into using Bluesky, I mean, just throw out the discourse or whatever. Like, the functionality to me is really seamless. It's a very easy to use platform.
And this is Jack Dorsey's, the Twitter founder's platform, I understand.
Yes. I just, in terms of engagement, I mean, that to me was one thing on Threads, was it just felt like it was
he has quit the board, I should add.
Oh, he's already given up. Maybe maybe he saw something we haven't yet. But yes. Yeah, I jumped on Threads, and like, I'm always open to seeing how these new platforms work. But I think there's always the momentum at the beginning for these, and just time after time, everyone migrates back to Twitter, or they just disengage completely. It's not as though I think a ton of people are necessarily looking for an alternative. It's just being worn out by the addiction of being.
We've all lost a ton of followers in the last week or two. Have you noticed? I've checked Social Blade, which you can look up anybody's followers, and it's across the board. At least among people in wrestling who I have, I'm like my little list to see who my peers are gaining or losing followers. We've all lost, depending on what scale you're at, tens, dozens, or hundreds of followers. As I don't know if it's just people leaving. I have no insight if it's bots. The bots are no longer useful now that the election is over. But it's less users, fewer users.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that myself on my account. It is going to be, I think, very interesting to see how many people move over to Bluesky, and ultimately, I mean, what is and the measures in place that Bluesky is utilizing to. It becomes very difficult when we're going to eliminate like all of these negative attributes of X, and how that's not going to permeate onto another social platform as you continue to add millions and millions of users. Or, to your point, is this just becoming like we're going to be so siloed that we have no comprehension of alternative points of view that people we disagree with, rather than engage, it's just going to be disengage, and it's going to become echo chambers for either side.
Yeah, I'm really not optimistic about the future in that regard. I don't know that the solution is to like engage though, because engaging just leads to heels being dug in, and I think just there's enough people, or maybe the typical person is not open-minded enough to have their minds changed. So you could engage and become more convinced of what you already believe, or you could become siloed and in an echo chamber and become more convinced of what you already believe. I just think we're on a trajectory to become even more polarized, radicalized, sure of ourselves. And it's not a good thing.
Or at least this well, I'm just stating, like, it's wild to me that it's like, this is not a platform, this is not a medium online that is built for, I think, constructive discussion. It can be, it'd be nice if it would be, but I mean,
I think the quote tweet was a real turning point too. And I don't think enough people talk about this. Like the quote tweet coming out in 2015 or whatever it was, we now have this pillory tool, and I know it's used for other things, but it really enhances your ability to engage in call out culture, in dunk culture, and to say, look at this stupid person here. Look at what they did and said.
It's a combination of the quote tweet and the like count, because that is the video gamification of it all too. It's a game that how hard you go at somebody and get the best zinger in, there's a score attached to it on top of it. And it takes out any level of, I think, rational discussion you can have with people. And ask yourself of how many arguments you've had with people online in the last 30 days, and how many in-person arguments you've had with human beings in the last year. Yeah. It doesn't happen. Like, most sane people are not screaming at you walking down the street because of something you're wearing or just some disagreement. It's wild to me, but that is the online culture, and that's not ever changing. So I don't
Sometimes
know
I just walk past strangers. When I'm out in public, I walk past strangers. As they walk past me, I think maybe that's the person who sends me angry DMs. And I try to imagine that. But then just speak to the difference that the way that people behave in online life and in real life. I think we're all kind of drunk online. It's basically the same thing as being drunk. Now, I don't drink at all anymore, but I think it's the same sort of effects and the lowering of inhibitions and the ambitiousness of putting forth some idea. I think you got to kind of approach being online with the assumption that everyone that you're interacting with is rip roaring drunk. And if you get drunk and use social media, you're just, look at Jake Hager's feed on election night.
I don't follow Jake Hager, so I can't speak to it.
I don't know if he was drunk or not, but he was opinionated.
What is your reason, strictly as a reporter? What is your reason for maintaining a presence on X and also experimenting with others like Threads and Bluesky?
Here's the thing. Like I wouldn't have any of this, I think, without Twitter, right? And there's all these negatives about Twitter, but nobody cares who I am without Twitter or some similar tool.
No one cares about me with Twitter, so it hasn't changed for me.
You had a life in this before Twitter, and mine was largely grown through Twitter. Now, I didn't directly, other than the Elon pennies that he sends me once in a while for my tweets. I haven't made much money directly from it, but the money that I have made, the following that I've built and the Patreon that we've built largely because of it indirectly, that's a huge part of that is because of Twitter. But I think it's important still to me to distribute the content, to distribute reporting, and I'll continue to do that on Twitter. If people use Bluesky, well, it's going to be on Bluesky also. If people use Threads, it'll be on Threads as well. But I think it's important to gain and sustain an audience.
That's where I'm at, and that's where I'm at for a lot of these. I think I disengaged on like just replying and having any kind of interactions on Twitter like a long time ago. I mean, I literally click on my mentions once or twice a year. I just don't read mentions, and to be honest, I feel like Twitter is not this like horrendous waste dump for me because I don't give it a whole lot of my day either. And that hurts me too. I think I would benefit by being constantly online and engaging with people and building a profile for myself. But I think it would also it would drain so much of me that that transaction is not worth it for me. And yes. I'm fine having a much lower profile and kind of being disengaged from various platforms.
I don't know that it would benefit you that much by engaging with it more. Like, I don't want to see John Pollock quote tweeting people all day and yelling at them. I don't think that would be good for your brand.
You don't want to yell at eggs all day?
No.
Well,
no.
Anyway, I think it's interesting to hear. And again, I literally signed up for it because I got a text message from Wei telling me I should look into this. So I do what Wei tells me, and thus far I've enjoyed the functionality of it, the process. It seems to be worth my time to check in. And quite honestly, cross posting things, I've experienced a lot more engagement on Bluesky than I have on
Listen, I'm going
X.
to follow you right now. There we go.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even have a Brandon Thurston follow.
I think I'm on the Wrestlenomics account right now. So now the Wrestlenomics account follows you. I think I was already following you from the other one.
Yeah, you might notice follows you already. John Pollock was already on top of Wrestlenomics. But for Twitter, who has, the millions and the hundreds of millions of users, I think I heard Bluesky is at 15 million users. It's a fraction of a fraction. And the engagement to me is it's a lot more than Threads, because Threads, I felt like I was just writing into the abyss, and there was just I don't know. I just don't think Threads was enough to keep you bringing you back to the platform. And that's ultimately what's going to be the challenge for any competitor to X, because it seems that until proven otherwise, Twitter is going to be the town square for everyone, and they're not looking for multiple places to park their attention online.
No, it's not convenient for it to be aggregated everywhere. Maybe it'll be certain communities that are on one and not the others. But it's not convenient, and it's I don't know. We'll see what happens if wrestling goes over there more. But I think it's really hard to overcome the almost 20 years, right? When did Twitter launch? In 2006 or something like that. I first started to hear about it around was the Arab Spring in 2011, where it became more in the mainstream consciousness. So, I mean, that alone, if we only start the clock in 2011, that's some 13 years. And it's just really hard to overcome that time that Twitter has had to gain all these followers, even though the platform has changed a lot in terms of the paid blue check and everybody getting more attention if you have the paid blue check, and in the divisiveness of Elon Musk. But yeah, it's kind of a 4chan board now, I guess, is basically what it's become. But it's going to be really hard for all of that time, that land grab of time, sort of a Vince McMahon term. Remember the land grab? That's why they got into social early. And I mean, look, that's the early player. And it's going to be really hard. And TikTok has come along and it's exploded into popularity in recent years. But this is just the same. TikTok is a different thing, right? It's the short form video content. These are the same platforms essentially, with slightly different settings and slightly different options. This is just text-based microblogging.
And it will normalize over time in terms of, I think, all the positives and negatives. I think they will even themselves out when you add volume, when you add the amount of user bases. I think these will start to reflect each other a lot more closely than upon first, the beta stages that we're kind of in.